Thank you. Well, wildfires are a big issue. I guess we see that on the news right now. New York with red sky, and that's because of the wildfires in Canada, and that's the new normal. The real issue of wildfires is much bigger than the red skies. We're producing about 20% of global CO2 emissions due to wildfires. It's 6 to 8 billion tons each year. 80% of those are human-induced. So it's us causing the problem. It's not a natural event, as many people think, and it's a massive impact on biodiversity too. We're losing 3 billion animals in those fires, and just in the US last year, $140 billion financial damage. So it's a huge problem that needs to be solved. And I think there are many solutions being thrown at that problem, and thankfully so. There are satellites looking down from space. We've got cameras being implemented, looking over the forests, and they're all good, they all make sense. Yet we think they're not fast enough. So our approach with Dryad, we want to be the fastest in detecting the fire, because if you detect the fire when it's still small, when it's in its infancy, you can put it out rather than fighting a mega fire as we see it right now. So our approach is to detect fires during the smoldering phase. We do this with a product we call SilverNet, a network in the forest. And this network in the forest is solar powered. It's independent of the grid, independent of mobile operators, and we put gas sensors into the forest. So these are like electronic noses we put in there. We look for hydrogen, carbon monoxide, VOCs, and we use built-in machine learning to distinguish the smells between a fire and what's supposed to be normal smell in the forest. And then we send out an alert with the exact geo-coordinate of the sensor and detect the fire while it's still smoldering before you even have an open flame. And that gives an exact the critical time advantage to the firefighters to put out the fire before it spreads out of control. A key thing, that's why we call Dryad networks, is the network. The sensors are great, but if in the middle of the forest you typically don't have any mobile network coverage. Now that's why we create our own network. We create a solar-powered, off-grid a mesh network infrastructure for our sensors and other applications in the future to utilize. So we're digitizing the forest and then protecting it from threats like fire and additional applications in the future. Key question that I'm being asked a lot is, well, how many of those sensors do you need? And you need a lot. We need one for every hectare. Like every football field needs a sensor. Okay, but we're producing billions of smartphones. Why can't we produce a few hundred millions of sensors? We should be able to do that, and we can. So we put one into every hectare, and we focus on those areas where there's human activity. Because our mission is to eliminate human-induced fires. That means all the arson, the cigarette that's being thrown out of a driving truck, the accident, the technical fault, the energy line, the power line that's causing a fire. Those are the things we want to eliminate. Now, we of course have a clear value proposition. We protect the environment and we protect financial damage and eventually also life, save life. But now that we have a network in the forest, we can do much more. We can measure soil moisture in the future, and we want to measure the growth of trees. We want to protect it from illegal logging with chainsaw detection. We're like the Vodafone of the forest, and our first killer application is fire detection, like voice calls and SMS was in the 80s maybe. We sell to private forestry, to municipalities, but also to utilities, and in particular energy companies, because everybody here seems to be talking about energy. So our technology, for example, is being deployed at PG&E in California. We have an installation in Greece to actually protect the energy companies, the grid companies, from the liability issues of their equipment causing a fire. And the system is quite cheap. We sell under $50 per hectare, and that's despite German manufacturing costs. So it's not coming out of China. It's designed and manufactured in Germany. We have a recurring revenue model. We sell the hardware and then a 15% annual subscription fee to build an ARR over time. We started selling last year with about 400,000 euros revenue from November, December. This year, we're aiming about 4 million euro and profitability aimed at for next year. We sell mainly indirect. We've got about 20 resellers and 25 installations in Southern Europe, Asia, and United States and Canada. Funding, we raised 1.8 million seed round funding. Then in August last year, we closed a Series A round led by eCapital and US investors Tova Ventures and Mark Benioff's Time Ventures. And well, we've got a management team that can lead it, and we've got about 38 employees based out of Berlin, Germany, predominantly. And the last slide, our mission is to be an impact for profit. So not just profit, we want profit, but we want impact. And we want to save, with 120 million sensors that we want to deploy by 2030, we are projecting 3.9 million hectares of forest to be protected from fire, and with that 1.7 billion tons of CO2 emissions we would prevent. Thank you, that's Dryad.